Hello, this is Matt on the Moon Lambeau channel. Could the price of XRP drop to $0 like cryptocurrency Luna just did? Well, Ripple CTO and co-creator of the XRP ledger, David Schwartz, has shared his perspective on this. And the short answer is that what happened to Luna can't happen to XRP as long as it has utility. Even if a stablecoin is ever backed by XRP, which may actually happen in the future, even if that happens, a death spiral is extremely unlikely to occur as long as XRP is valuable elsewhere, as long as it's valuable in addition to backing a stablecoin. And I'll explain what I mean by this as the video unfolds. And so what I'm really excited to share with you primarily in the video is David Schwartz's comments, but I can't do that without first explaining what's going on, because the ecosystem here, it's kind of complex, and I didn't own Luna, so I actually didn't really know anything about Luna. I was aware that it had been pumping recently. It hit its all-time high near almost $119 at the beginning part of April this year. I was aware of that, and I talked about it in that sense, but I didn't know anything else. I'd never held it before. I still don't hold it. But I need to share with you the relationship, because here's the thing. David Schwartz, before this all happened, David Schwartz had actually talked about the idea of cryptocurrencies, stablecoins specifically, being backed by XRP. And so you can set things up so that algorithmically, it's in theory going to work so that prices won't ever crater, but in practice, every time it's been tried, it hasn't worked out, including with Luna. So yeah, you had this long run for over a year, and Luna's worth an absolute fortune until suddenly it wasn't in a span of just a couple days. So I'm going to run through that first, that you need to understand the mechanics of this, but then I'll get to David Schwartz's comments right after that. I have to do it in that order. But before going further, I do want to be clear, I do not have a financial background of any kind. I am not offering financial advice, and you definitely should not buy or sell anything because of anything I say or write. I'm just an enthusiast who enjoys making YouTube videos about crypto-related topics, but just as a hobby and just for fun. So in case you've been hanging out in a cave for like the last several days or so, cryptocurrency Luna, which was in the top 10 cryptocurrencies by market cap, it was in fact ranked higher than XRP for a time this year. It has cratered effectively to zero. Although, interestingly, as I'll show you, it's been bouncing back. So there are two cryptocurrencies and to be considered here. There's Luna itself, and then there's a cryptocurrency called UST for short. That's Terra UST. We'll just call it UST for short, which is, it works within the same ecosystem, effectively. We'll just call it that. So those are the two to consider. There's Luna, and then there's UST. Now, if you take a look at the price of Luna, it's currently worth, and again, it was a high, $118.74. It's down to 0.000382. But what's interesting is it was actually much lower than that. So you can see there's 3 zeros after the decimal point. The other day, there were 4 zeros after the decimal point. So from wherever it bottomed, which was 0.00001, it's actually up, believe it or not. You already know if you're looking at the screen. In the last 24 hours, Luna is up 2,570%. Crypto's nuts, friends. When there's almost no money in a cryptocurrency, and if you happen to buy it really near the bottom and any money flows back in, the percentage gains can be absolutely nutso. That's all that you're seeing there. But the risk associated with that is incredibly high. And so I'm not playing that game. I'm sure some listening actually had, and I get the thought process. I don't think you're stupid or anything, but there are people that have bought Luna thinking, okay, well, it's a gamble. I mean, we get it. It's in a death spiral, but they're going to try and reboot the thing. And if it ever comes back, okay, it'll be worth way more. I get the thought process. It's fine. As long as you know what you're doing and you understand that it's very high risk. I mean, I'd love to see the project come back just because I don't like failure, but I don't know if that's ever going to happen. Maybe it does, but it's really not looking good, because once this level of trust and confidence is destroyed, and it has been, that's a long road to recovery, and you have to fundamentally change the way the ecosystem works, because this type of stablecoin, UST, doesn't work. And I'm going to explain to you how they entered into a death spiral, and you need to understand that in order to understand why David Schwartz, what David Schwartz is saying. If I just read you David Schwartz's comments first and you didn't understand what I'm about to go through, it wouldn't make any damn sense. Here is Terra USD, which is UST for short. This is the stablecoin, which should be worth $1. It's currently worth 15 cents. And within the last 24 hours, it was worth as little as 11 cents. Not good, folks. That's not very stable, is it? So take a look at this headline from CNN Business, Markets Now. Why this obscure corner of the crypto world has investors in a panic. Within the often head-scratching world of cryptocurrencies, there's a small but growing subspecies known as algorithmic stablecoins that have some investors and regulators ringing alarm bells. This week, one popular so-called algo coin cratered, wiping out billions of dollars worth of value in just a few days. The coin, called Terra USD, let me just pause. That is what it's called. It's Terra USD. For short, it's UST, as in Tom. The coin, called Terra USD, is designed to maintain its value at $1 forever and ever. Amen. That's kind of funny. Instead, it fell as low as 23 cents Wednesday before recovering some ground. It was hovering around 60 cents early Thursday. To critics of the controversial crypto product, it's an emperor has no clothes moment. Or more pessimistically, a Lehman Brothers moment. To understand what's going on in this corner of the crypto market, it's important to understand what these newfangled investing products are and how they work. So what's a stablecoin? Cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin and Ether are known for wild swings in value that makes their investors nervous. Stablecoins, as their name implies, are designed to hold steady. Most stablecoins are tightly pegged to a traditional fiat currency, such as the US dollar, or to a commodity like gold. Investors buy them to store money and facilitate deals within the cryptocurrency infrastructure. They also are used for other types of financial exchanges, such as lending, borrowing, or sending payments overseas with less friction than going through a traditional bank. Their purported stability has turned these once obscure tokens into the bedrock of the crypto ecosystem. The collective market value of all stablecoins has grown to $180 billion as of March this year, according to the Federal Reserve. But don't let the name fool you. Not all stablecoins are stable per se. Some stablecoins have a one-to-one connection to real assets like US Treasury bills. Some are linked to bonds, which can fluctuate in value. But it's stablecoin's wayward cousin, the algorithmic stablecoin, that triggered a panic among investors this week. And while they sound similar, the algorithmic variety are, functionally, another beast entirely. And so let's pause now. That is true. When it comes to UST, this is an algorithmic stablecoin. And I've never used stablecoins because I'm the type that, like, when I buy something, it just goes in cold storage. I've never had a need for stablecoins, so I'm aware of them. I get it. I know what Tether is. I know USDC. I get it. I've never had a need to use them because when it comes to me in crypto, I do it way different than the typical retail speculator who gets in and out of positions and feels the need to have some sort of stablecoin in case things drop or go up. Blah blah blah. I don't play that game. I buy something and then it goes into cold storage for years and years and years, however long it takes. That's it. So for me, it was a bit of a crash course of learning over the last few days. And I do find it interesting, which is why I want to share it with you, especially since, again, there's this question, and David Schwartz, like I said, he answered. I'm going to get to it, I promise. I got to cover this ground first. But could this happen to XRP? And if XRP had no utility, the answer would be yes, actually. But we need to break this down a little bit further so I can explain why that makes sense. Most stablecoins are backed by real-world collateral such as dollars or cash equivalents. But algorithmic stablecoins aren't necessarily backed by any real external asset, relying on complex financial engineering to hold their value steady. And when they fall, they tend to fall hard. Industry watchers call this a death spiral. And folks, now we're getting to the nuts and bolts of this. The death spiral. And this was seen coming from a mile away by many. And I just, since I wasn't into the world of Luna, I was unaware of this because I didn't do any research on it because I wasn't going to, there's too many cryptocurrencies. I can't research them all. But here, I'll just highlight this. This is from Swiss Borg. This is from April 11th of this year. High risk brings high rewards. Risk assessment of UST and other stablecoins. So this was a month ago, and this paper from Swiss Borg warned that Luna could enter a death spiral based on the way that it was designed. So for people that were listening, they knew that this was a serious thing that might happen. For the rest of the retail speculator, they just piled on the train. You know, that's just the way humans behave. They're just following the leader. Anyway, piece continues. Algorithmic coins are just a fancy way of saying we are going to say that this is worth $1 because it's backed by another asset that we also create out of thin air, says Charles Cascarilla, the chief executive and co-founder of Paxos, a blockchain infrastructure firm. In the case of Terra USD, that other out of thin air asset is the cryptocurrency Luna. And here's how it works. There's 3 bullet points. Here's number 1. An investor can, in theory, exchange 1 Terra for $1 worth of Luna, its sister token, whose price isn't fixed. Traders who engage in a this is point number 2 now. Traders who engage in a process called arbitrage are able to make a quick profit by exploiting fluctuations in either asset, creating an incentive to hold Terra's value steady at $1. For example, if Terra drops below $1, arbitrage traders swoop in to buy Terra on the cheap and exchange it for $1 worth of Luna. This eventually creates an ecosystem in which traders exchange Lunas and Terras to keep the value of Terra at $1. But the problem is that the entire ecosystem relies on traders believing Luna has value. Once investors lose faith in the system, all bets are off. Now that's certainly true. So this gets, it's like, what is money? There's so many ways that you could break down what money is. So many ways. And I tend to start with the idea that it's a trust system. And then you can name all the other characteristics that makes it actual money. Like the unit of account, so on and so forth. But what is it? Ultimately, it's a trust system. And if there's no trust in the system, because what's the dollar backed by? Well, nothing. It's backed by literally nothing. What's gold backed by? Nothing. Okay? What's Luna backed by? Is backed by nothing. So if the confidence goes away, you start to have some serious problems, right? And so don't think that you can't have a death spiral of other assets, including, like, historically, fiat currencies don't live very long. So don't think it can't happen to the United States. Like, this can happen to things, right? Just because it hasn't happened to the United States dollar yet, it doesn't mean that it can't or won't in the future. In fact, if it keeps getting abused this severely at some unknown point in the future, even if it's past my lifetime, it's going to happen. Because I don't see anybody that's an adult fixing the problem. That it's just terrible monetary policy here. And so this is the problem here. When you're talking about Luna, it's a trust system, and when things start to go south, because think about this. Stock market tanked, crypto followed, crypto tanked, including Luna, and that started a panic cycle. And I'm going to get into the panic cycle, and then we'll get into the XRP specific stuff here. But you got to understand how this works and why it fell apart. And so anyway, the piece continues. Any morning, people could wake up and say, wait a minute, you just made up this... wait a minute. Did I read that wrong? Wait a minute, you just made up this all up. That's a broken sentence. Okay. It's worthless. And they could decide to dump their Lunas and Terras, wrote Bloomberg columnist Matt Levine. That appears to be what happened this week. The wheels started to come off over the weekend when investors began to pull out of both Terra and Luna. This is exactly the death spiral a lot of people predicted, said Henry Elder, head of decentralized assets at Wave Financial, a digital asset manager. And so a lot of people, as it turns out, I've been researching this since the drop, the death spiral. A lot of people predict this, said, no, this is not sustainable because based on human behavior. In theory, it sounds like it works real nice, but it won't actually in practice because humans and emotion and irrationality, they're going to follow the leader. If things start to go bad, they're going to follow the leader. And so why? What causes the death spiral? To break it down further, there's this piece from Crypto Slate, which does a really good job. If you haven't wrapped your head around it yet, I think this should do it for you. This reads as follows. Risks of Terra USD, which again is UST, the stablecoin. Unlike other stablecoins such as USDT or USDC, backed by fiat collateral and other liquid assets, UST is an algorithmically backed token. Crypto Slate has obtained a report from Swissborg's DeFi team on UST risks. The report explained, and this is key, folks, you got to understand this part. At any time, users on Terra can burn $1 worth of Luna to mint one UST stablecoin. Or they can burn one UST stablecoin to redeem $1 worth of Luna. Therefore, the fate of stablecoin UST and cryptocurrency Luna are closely linked, and so are the risks involved. And so here's how the death spiral works. There's actually a chart on your screen. I'm going to read through this small little bit here. Swiss Borg recounted a potential death spiral between Terra Luna and UST, which could cause Luna to crash and further emphasize a bank run on UST. So let me just pause and note. That's what I was highlighting in that Swiss Borg article. They predicted this before it happened. They said, no, real good chance of death spiral. And it sure as hell happened 1 month later. So anyway, the piece continues. And this Crypto Slate piece was written a couple days ago. We already know that Luna effectively went to zero and then went up a bit. But anyway, it's still basically zero compared to what it was at. But anyway, Luna is currently trading down 90% since May 9th, indicating that this scenario is now playing out. So the death spiral scenario playing out, with UST also down 30%. Well, now we know it's down 85% of the time we're recording this. The report explains the death spiral in detail. This is the most crucial part right here. If Luna's price is under pressure, UST stablecoin holders could be fearing that the UST peg is at risk and decide to redeem their UST positions. So let's pause. What they're saying right here, since they understand, people in this ecosystem, enough of them anyway, understand that Luna's fate is tied to UST. So if the price of Luna is going down, and it's gone down dramatically, not because there's something wrong with Luna initially, but because the market went down, because that happened, it made people concerned that something might happen. It wasn't happening, but they were concerned it might happen. What was the thing they were worried about? That UST stablecoin would lose its peg because you can get in and out. You can turn Luna into UST and you can turn UST into Luna. And so they were afraid that might happen. The fear of that potentially happened resulted in it actually happening. That's what you need to understand. That's exactly what happened. So it's humans behaving that something could happen. Showing fear that it could happen, then it did happen, right? And then they write the following. In order to do so, UST is burnt and Luna is minted and sold on the market. This would exacerbate further decline of Luna's price, pushing more UST holders to sell off their UST. Folks, do you see how this happens? So again, out of fear of the stablecoin losing its peg and being worth less than $1, they describe the following. That UST would be burnt, and then you purchase Luna. But then when you have the Luna, it's already dropping, so then you want to get out of the Luna too. So you sell that. You sell your Luna, pushing the price of Luna down even further, right? And so see how it spirals? If you're getting what I'm saying now? There's a reason that I'm repeating this. Repetition helps me, so I'm hoping it's helping you too. You see how it spirals from there? You're worried about the peg, the UST peg. And even though if it hadn't started going down, you're like, well, it might because the price of Luna is going down, so I'm gonna turn my UST into Luna. And then you have your Luna, and then you sell your Luna, and that pushes further additional pressure down. And then eventually people want to get out of UST because Luna's going down, and then the peg, it actually starts to lose its peg as a result. So people are like, oh my gosh, Luna's tanking so much, some people, and then enough people to get out of UST. And then it's a race to the bottom. That's exactly what happened. And so they write, this vicious cycle is known as a bank run or death spiral. And here you can see, here's the chart where I'm circling here. There's 3 circles here in this chart. Number 1, Luna loses value. Number 2, bank run on UST, which is bank run, it's the same as death spiral, so it's interchangeable. Number 3, more Luna minted. So just pause here if you want to take a look at that and wrap your brain around it. So could this happen to XRP? And I apologize if that took too long, but this is a complex idea, and I want to make sure I'm sufficiently breaking this down so that you get the idea, because otherwise what David Schwartz had to say won't go make no damn sense. So there's an XRP community member named XR Plumber who wrote, "Hey David Schwartz," this is on Twitter, "how similar was the Terra Luna stablecoin system to the XRP stablecoin design you discussed a while back? You talked about XRP as collateral against a stablecoin, adding or subtracting the amount of XRP depending on its current price. I think. Just curious." Yeah, and he had. I remember that as well. Because, again, Luna is basically the collateral behind UST, and that resulted in a death spiral. And David Schwartz previously had talked about XRP as collateral for a stablecoin. Well, wouldn't the same damn thing happen then? Right? Do you see the concern? And that's why you needed to understand all of that so I could share with you this. And here's what David Schwartz said. "There were never any proposals, at least as far as I know, to allow a stablecoin to mint XRP, only release XRP previously locked. There are still risks even with that difference, but I think that difference reduces them dramatically. The problem is what happens if the value of the backing token starts dropping. Smart stablecoin holders will try to get out because they take huge losses if the collateral proves insufficient. Well, if you hold a stablecoin and are forced to trade it for a crypto, and that crypto you never really wanted to hold it anyway is dropping, of course you're going to sell it. If that pushes the price down further, you have a death spiral. Whether the crypto is unlocked or minted, it's still increased supply and downward pressure. So folks, what he's talking about, that's exactly what I was just describing a minute ago in detail. That's how this happens, and it's cyclical. And it's pretty much impossible. That's why it's not just a spiral, it's a death spiral. It's impossible to get out of. And then David Schwartz said the following, and this is important. I think the fundamental problem here was that the Luna system's only value driver was a stablecoin. There was nothing else to the ecosystem, and there was no way that could justify or sustain the huge Luna valuations. So a bubble popping drove system into a death spiral. So pause. This is why I was saying at the outset of the video, because XRP has additional utility, this can't happen. Yes, I'm not saying there can't be panic selling in such a situation. Even if there's a stablecoin that was backed by XRP, even in the same way, I'm not saying there couldn't be panic selling. But what I am saying is that XRP wouldn't go to zero if it's actually solving real problems for real people. There's a reason that XRP has been in the top 10 cryptocurrencies by market cap its entire existence, which is almost a decade. That's incredibly rare. There have been so many different cryptocurrencies in the top 10, but only 3 have always been in the top 10. That's Bitcoin, Ethereum, and XRP. Their whole lives, all 3 of them in the top 10. That's because even though the market moves in tandem and people don't sufficiently parse out the differences between cryptocurrencies, there are enough people like me, and maybe you, to keep the prices there where if things drop enough, we're going to be like, okay, we're stepping in because you guys don't know what the hell you're doing and you're responding emotionally. So if there's additional utility, then there'll be enough people there to be like, okay, well, this looks like a buy. But in the case of Luna, it was there for the stable coin. So if that's all going to hell in a handbasket and there's no additional utility, and from what David Schwartz is citing here, he doesn't seem to think that there was, then yeah, that makes sense. So if XRP is doing other stuff, and it most certainly is, even if it were in that situation, it doesn't make sense to think that even if it were going down, it would go to zero. That's the idea that I think he's getting at here, and that's why I wanted to share. And then there was also this. He wrote, referencing Luna, it works well so long as the demand for the stablecoin denominated in the backing coin doesn't significantly drop. It's kind of like how everyone thinks they're an investing genius in a bull market. Exactly. And somebody named Crypto Carpenter XRP wrote, what are your thoughts on Luna at this point? Is it salvageable? And he said, this is David Schwartz now. I know almost nothing about this project 2 days ago, or excuse me, I knew almost nothing about this project 2 days ago, so I'm not really super qualified to comment. But my gut says that there isn't anything to salvage. As I understand it, all the ecosystem really had was the stablecoin. So the death of that leaves nothing to save. Right? So algorithmic stablecoins, maybe they shouldn't ever exist ever again. Or if they were, I mean, it better be in a damn system where, you know, the collateral is actually useful for other stuff, or else it's going to death spiral. But if Luna were useful for other stuff, people wouldn't sell it into oblivion. They wouldn't have sold it into zero if it did other stuff. That's the point. So, is what it is. Long story short, though, here, this isn't going to happen to XRP, and XRP isn't currently backed. It's not currently, I'm sorry, I said that inverse. XRP isn't currently collateral for a stablecoin. I'm just saying if it ever does in the future, it doesn't mean it's going to be set up exactly the same. And even so, as long as there's additional utility, humans wouldn't respond the same in open markets. That's what I'm getting at here. So XRP going to zero? No. There's no reason to think that would happen based on all available information today. I'm not a financial advisor. You should not buy or sell anything because of anything that I say or write. That would be a very, very, very bad idea. Until next time, to the moon, Lambo.